Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Kanga, switching to my radio voice. And in this particular Airbnb, this thing has been driving me crazy at every podcast recording, at every meeting. Yeah, it's not the crazy hair. It is a painting behind me that does that. And
Keep
today,
swapping in and out.
exactly. And today I have with me Jennifer Carroll, CEO at Veruna. Jennifer, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Tony. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I've been hearing about you guys for at least a couple of years, and so excited to finally have you on. And it looks like you are Austin, Texas based. Is that so we're recording December 1st. So I'm guessing this time of the year it's actually beautiful in Texas.
Yes, it's very nice right now. I'd say it's upper 60s, lower 70s, sunny. It's very nice.
Fantastic. After the really tough summer, uh, good for you guys. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Veruna?
Right. So when you're coming from outside of the independent agency space, so we're specifically in the independent agency space, when you're coming outside of that, we're what's considered an agency management system. But let me back up a little bit, right? So the way that we think about the insurance space, there's like this three-legged stool, right? There's the carriers that provide the product and protect the risk, right? There's the consumers who buy the insurance and sometimes have incidents that require insurance. And of course, there's specifically in the United States, there's the independent agents and brokers that help facilitate the sale of that insurance. And we hope are advisors and advocates on behalf of the insureds. So Veruna is a core system specifically for independent insurance agents. And expanding on AMS, we're not just an AMS, we're a CRM, AMS, carrier relationship management tool in one.
Okay. The carrier relationship piece I hadn't thought of. That's interesting. Okay. So I'm a former carrier guy. I have dealt with a lot of agents as an underwriter, as a sales manager or marketing rep. My girlfriend worked at a very large broker for several years. And I've worked with agencies as a recruiter. Basically, I've been involved with agencies in every way except for being a licensed agent on payroll, right?
Nice.
And almost without fail, what I keep hearing, so I've never used an AMS, but almost without fail, the two big ones, right, that dominate probably 80% of the US market.
Sure.
I don't know anybody that loves them. Basically, every agent I talk to has a love-hate relationship, with the hate being the bigger part of the relationship with the system, and in some cases, like really don't like them, but they feel like there's no third option, right? And also the traditional AMSs, the way that I understand them, they're really not CRMs. Like the concept of a CRM really didn't exist when they were first built.
That's right.
So how is Veruna different?
Exactly. So, we are standing on the shoulder of giants, right? Like when these systems first came out in the late 80s, early 90s, like for independent agents to be able to receive this information digitally, right, at that time was really earth-shattering and groundbreaking. But those systems that were built back in those days, and in fact are still in use today, have a huge legacy setup and system that's very difficult to totally reconstruct for newer technology, as hundreds of thousands of people are using them, right? So our mission at Veruna is to empower independent agents. We're trying to rescue them from like swivel chair, duplicative data entry, working in 15 different systems just to do like a single job, right? Just to sell a single policy. Because there's a struggle to reimagine like what that looks like. So our mission is to empower them to get them back to being advisors and the advocates they were meant to be, right? When they originally when the concept of an independent agent really first came about, to sell insurance, sure, to help service those policies, but to really be a confidant and advisor, especially for small business America, right? Over 99% of business in America is actually small business, considered small business. And most commercial lines are still placed by independent agents in the US today, right? By some count, well over 80%, right? Small business America relies on independent agents to do the job of finding the right insurance with the right coverage at the right price so that their life assets are protected, right? Their bread and butter, right? Their whole reason for living. And so that's really, really important to us. And so as we looked at the space, right, that my co-founders and I, we really realized that the struggles were around sort of all these disconnected systems. And one of the points that you made, right, that it's an AMS is not a CRM, right? It was originally designed to be a database that could be digitally connected to bring policy information in front of the agent, so they had that information digitally, right, instead of in paper filing cabinets. Um, when really what you really need is a system that has like a true customer 360 view, of the whole life cycle that you would have with a customer, from originally marketing to them, right, to get them coming in as a new lead, maybe from a referral or from an online digital source, to managing the sales pipeline with that customer. Across your agency, and in insurance, we're not just selling widgets, right? You're not just selling, okay, it's X policy and it costs Y, and that's not how it works. You need a whole bunch of information, a bunch of data that needs to get over to the carriers for them to assess the risk, right? The underwriting data, in order for you to get a quote. And then if you're really doing your job as an insurance agent, you're really evaluating that with your customer to find the right coverage for them for what they need. And then you're completing that by getting the documentation and information necessary in order to bind that. And then, of course, at that point, that information comes back from the carriers in through the system, typically through something like a carrier downloads, right? And then from there, like, that keeps going, right? There's servicing to be done if there's, policy changes, endorsements. Many commercial agencies do agency bill, meaning they're the ones that go out and get the money and then remit that to the carrier, right? Or direct bill. And then the most important part of an AMS is often the commission tracking, because that's what pays you at the end of the day, right? So you got to track what the agency's making, what the producers are making, what the sub producers are making, what your referral partners need to be making, right? And so the system does that. And then there should be a component of it that does all the accounting for you, the financial accounting. And the most important part, right, is to be able to pull that all together and really understand your business by understanding the data, being able to use analytics, and we I'll get to it in a second, but we're on Salesforce. Be able to use reports and dashboards to quickly see like how your business is doing, and where there's opportunities for growth, and where there are things that are at a risk for your business. And that's a lot to take on. Okay, but you need something like that. Like, that's where the future of this is going, right? So Veruna brings all of that together. So our goal is to be soup to nuts, everything an agency needs to have a customer 360 view, to be able to service their customers, to sell insurance, service their customers, and understand their business. And that's why when I say it's a CRM, AMS, and carrier relationship management tool in one, where our goal is to do all of those things. And we should, because we have all the data about the customer there in the system. Like, there's no reason not to do those things, right? So our goal is to provide that software, that platform to the agents so they can get back to creating relationships with their customers, right? Being able to be very responsive. They want to, consumers today want to interact digitally with their agents. The existing systems make it very difficult to do that, right? So they need something modern, cloud-based, digitally enabled, and that's what we bring to the table, right? And so the benefit also of being on Salesforce is that it brings with it all of that configurability, the no code configurability, right? You don't need developers to be able to configure it to be what it needs to be for your business, and easily extensible, because maybe there's a particular carrier that you want to connect with directly because you're their number one distributor, right? Or broker. You can do that because of the technology that is the Salesforce platform. It's very extensible and it's meant to be.
Okay. So no, Salesforce is a CRM, the CRM, or the largest CRM.
Certainly.
Uh, so with Veruna being built on top of Salesforce, uh, naturally a CRM, but how did it turn Salesforce into an AMS?
Right. So Salesforce is generic for all industries, right? And so Benioff in 2019 sort of started this like real verticalization, right? Where you start to kind of go into verticals. One of those they're paying very, very close attention to is financial services, right? So Salesforce is investing millions of dollars in financial services, wealth managers, banks, and including insurance companies, agencies and companies, kind of both under that umbrella. And so what Varuna specifically brings in like the very nuanced insurance agency specific components to that. So for example, quoting, right? So we just announced our partnership with Bold Penguin, round trip comparative rating. So the data starts in Varuna, you send it off to Bold Penguin does its things, the quotes come back into Varuna, right? That's like not a thing right now, right? It was just Salesforce. So, but it is now, right? It's going to be a thing now. And the carrier downloads, like I talked about before, right? That was always one of the essential purposes of an agency management system. So Varuna does that for anybody who wants to use Salesforce as their CRM. We bring that data straight into the system. We also connect to other typical things you need as an agent, accord forms, of course, certificates of insurance, right? You have to have those things. Insurance accounting, such a critical piece and part of it. So Verunda does a lot of complex commission tracking. We track it. You can slice and dice your commissions by the particular carrier or the issuing company or the type of business that it is, or you can do by number of lives or number of covered lives, or you can do it by tiers of commissions depending on how much the premium is. So we do all of that for the agency within the system. So within that single system. So, Tony, you as one of my customers at an agency, I could see all of your information. I could see, information about you. I can see the last time we talked. I can see what your favorite pie is at Thanksgiving. I can see what your pet's name is. I can see all of that information is in front of me so that I can provide a superior service from not just getting you the right insurance, right? But also having a good relationship and servicing the stuff that you have, right? Which is a little different. Other systems don't have a place to store about your pets and their names. But now that I know that, the next time I have a conversation, I might be like, Tony, have you ever thought about pet insurance? Like, how old is Fluffy now? Right? We can have those conversations. And that's where the industry is moving to. And that's why we kind of design the system that way.
Fantastic. By the way, when how most guests end up on the podcast is I happen to see your booth at Insure to Connect or whatever
Ah.
conference, and I go over, I hand them my card, and say, I run the largest podcast in InsurTech. Would love to have somebody on the show, and then I say, send me whoever is passionate about the business problem you're solving. And I don't know who I handed it to, but what I do remember is that person immediately said, "Oh yeah, that's Carol," and I can, excuse me, that's Jennifer. I can absolutely see why, because I love the passion that you have for this. So thank you for that. Deeply needed in our industry. So one of the things that you said is that the goal is to be a soup to nuts AMS, soup to nuts for agencies. What is Veruna's philosophy on connecting with other tools to expand what the agency needs?
Yeah, we love partners. I mean, just like I was just talking about Bold Penguin, right? They're a partner, right? We're connecting to them. We connect to other comparative raters. We love them. In fact, our carrier downloads capabilities, we can take in more than just Ivans. A lot of people don't know that. There are actually other facilitators of information from carriers, and we accept that too, right? Our goal is to steer a step with the insurance industry as they grow into this new space, and disruption is not a great word necessarily in insurance. Folks are relatively risk adverse. I get that. I used to be a lawyer back in the day, many moons ago. I get that a lot. So we're planning to stair step them. So we actually have a lot of partners that we work with. Like we have payments partners that we work with. Um, like I said, comparative raters, we have other systems that we work with. And then because we're on side of Salesforce, our customers are free to access anything else on the app exchange that they want. They don't have to use some of our systems if they don't want to, if they already had something set up. So we see our customers connecting in quite integrally with Veruna, things like phone systems and text messaging and chatbots and all of the things, because it's the Salesforce system, the platform is designed to do that. But we love working with partners, and a lot of it, some of that's speed to market, and some of it's just stuff that I will never do, right? Like I'm never going to get into like e-signature. There are other people that do that.
Perfect. So we don't have the problem that uh one of the other big guys has of charging me to access my own data. Uh,
Ah, yes.
basically, perfect. Um, what type of agencies are should be looking at Veruna? Is it truly that like from a one person shop to Aon, or is the sweet spot like what is
Somewhere else. Yeah, that's a great
that
question. Yeah, we love all agencies of all sizes, okay, to be very, very clear. I just think that agencies that are a little smaller, they need to understand that a system like Varuna is quite powerful. So to get the most out of it, you have to have dedicated resources, whether that's internal resources or whether you're paying somebody else to configure the system for your needs. Okay, so it doesn't matter. So we oftentimes find ourselves in front of customers that tend to be a little more mid-market and enterprise level, just because they're looking for something very powerful and configurable, and they want to do some of their own extensibility. Maybe they have a special relationship with an excess and surplus carrier, and they want to do some streamlined connectivity there, right? So we tend to find ourselves in front of those types of customers because that's the kind of system that we are, right? So for example, USAA's agency arm uses Varuna as their agency management system. I'm using that in quotes, right? We're on that side of the house, right? And that's a very sophisticated, tech forward, tech savvy, market leading carrier, right? And the reason they picked us because they wanted something they could configure for exactly for their business and for their member needs. That's a great fit for us.
okay? So really, it can work at any size. The medium and larger agencies are the ones that can probably really take advantage of everything that
Yeah,
you really
really take advantage of it. Yeah, we actually had like a real small agency that maybe had like, I want to say maybe 9 people at it, but like one of the gentlemen who owned it was just like a technophile and just loved like Salesforce and like kind of building stuff. Like that was just his passion. So he was able to put the system into place and start using it and really tricking it out to like really create some efficiencies at his agency. So he loved it, right? And Veruna, don't to be wrong, Veruna is like gonna get you 99% of the way out of the box there. Okay, like it's not like you have to build it and then you got, but you want to do things like set up custom templates that are variable depending on what kind of messaging that you want to send, and you want it to really trick it out so that it sends upon certain triggers, so it's more automated, and you want those messages, those documents, those emails to go out in a way that's pulling data from the system, which means you need to be careful that there's good data stewardship by your team. So our system, because it's a little newer, almost requires a little more data stewardship, and you might be like, what do I mean by that? So some of the more traditional systems, um, you could almost like you could have 27 quote unquote travelers as carriers in your system, right? Because there wasn't like a need to necessarily say, okay, well, this is the larger travelers group, and this is like the issuing, this is Travelers Mutual of Omaha, and this is, but you could just put whatever you wanted there, right? Whereas the way that Veruna is designed, we use a lot of that hyperlinking and that meta tagging in order to get good data and metrics. So when you use us, you would have one traveler like master group, and then you'd have just the very specific issuing companies, with their specific NAIC code, like in the system, and those policies would be attached to those. So that's where it gets into that carrier relationship management. So in Veruna, at a glance, you can see what your relationship is with travelers. You see exactly how much premium you're selling in real time, how much commission you're making, how far you are from your contingency bonus, right? That's just a different way of thinking than some of the other systems can facilitate.
I gotta say, coming from the carrier side and being a former sales manager at two different carriers, it was not easy to see that from my side, right? Like as the carrier with the larger agencies, it's not easy
That's right.
to get the aggregate data because a bunch of agency codes and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's this leads very well into my implementation question, right? So basically,
Mm,
any agency sizable has an agency management system of some sort. So
hmm.
so
Yes.
they're transitioning from one of the
Yeah.
others. What is that transition like? It's
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No, I'd say about 95% of our customers are coming from something else, right? So we do tend to get some of the newcomers, like new MGAs and newer agencies that are like starting from scratch. They want like the latest and greatest tech, right, to start their agency. But for many folks, we're transitioning them from another system. We take like a three-pronged approach to that. So we kind of consider training is an essential prong of that. Um, the data migration is a essential prong of that, and I would say sort of the change management process is a major prong of that, right? Because if you're going to have a successful implementation, you have to have great change management, which means from the agency side, top down, well thought out change management. A lot of these agencies have been working on a particular system for like their whole lives. Like they've never even used a different system. And that's going to be difficult, right? To be exposed to a new system and then be expected to do their same jobs in the new system. And it's extremely important that it's accurate and it's easy to access. And for some of the systems, even the look and feel is very different, right? Because it's one thing to go from like a black screen to like a cloud-based white screen with hyperlinks and tabs. Like it just feels very different, right? So we're aware of that. We are very well aware of that. And some agencies do it better than others from that side of it. But we try to take as much as we can off of the plate. So we do a lot of training. We have online videos. We have a whole course that the whole team has to go through. We do super user train the trainer. So we give them materials so that they can eventually customize those materials to be exactly how their system's configured and use that to onboard future employees. And we actually sit with them as they're training their team to make sure that they get it right. So like it's really important that they feel good in it. And then the data migration is, a big fear that folks have, right? From sometimes switching other systems in the past. That's gone very poorly. The good news is that's all fixed now. So our data migration is probably the best in the biz. It's because we're going to, we're working from a variety of different systems, but we're putting into our structure. So we have a programmatic way to ingest databases from other systems. So that's the ideal state, right? It's not every single system, but a lot of them, right? And so we ingest it, we do the transformation, we get it into the system. And the nice thing about Salesforce is because you may have heard of sandboxes. So it's this concept of it's a play area that's like a copy of your current environment. So as part of the training, people can train on their real data. So that test data that we're loading to make sure that it's in the right spot. And, we've kind of like, because you don't know what you're going to do when you're saying you may have people who've been putting cell phones in the fax number field in the old system, right? You got to figure out what to do with that stuff when it's coming over, right? So we let people train while they're learning the new system on their own data, and that really helps with the comfort level, and feeling good that it's going to be a successful transition. So we do a whole test data migration as part of the implementation during that, and then right at the end, that's where we do the actual full. Typically, it depends on the customer and the size of their data and where it was at, but typically we tend to do like a full load, and then it cuts over and we point the carrier downloads to go from the old system to the new system.
Okay, fantastic. This will probably go out middle of January. Uh, any any new features that you're excited for that you can already talk about?
Mm. Yeah, so similar to what I mentioned about Bold Penguin, right? So the capability around having a really comprehensive solution that's really focusing on that full digital flow. So imagine a self-service customer portal. So customers entering data, it's going into a section of the system where you can then do quoting. Yeah, round trip comparative rating, getting quoting, getting back into the system. So that is coming out right now. That's going to be available for the beginning of 2024 for customers that want to access that, which is really cool. I should also note that we sometimes get this question too, because this just kind of came out this year. Veruna is line of business agnostic. So I don't know if you know this, but other systems are like very specific to P&C, or they're very specific to group benefits, right? We're line agnostic. So we handle all lines of business, which means that you can handle, and this is another reason why we're appropriate for like heavy commercial lines agencies, or maybe more like mid-market or enterprise agencies. You can do both your P&C and your employee benefits in the same system. So you can actually get a view of your entire agency performance, like across the way, right? So there'll be continued releases, enhancements around that. And then I think the final piece, which everybody's always talking about, of course, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? It's very hot right now. But the reality is, because of what Salesforce has done, right, and released over this past year, is a perfect use case for insurance. Because I remember I mentioned before, we're bringing all the insurance data into Salesforce, into the system. Well, what do you need to do really cool things with AI? All the data. So we bring all that information in there. So when you have that true customer 360, you can do things like next best action to make a recommendation for upselling a customer. Maybe they're missing some coverage, right? You can make a recommendation around that, or you can use Sales GPT and Service GPT. So there's more to it than that. And I know we're kind of out of time, so I won't get into it. We can have a whole different discussion about AI and the future of insurance, and I'm sure you've been talking about that with like a gazillion other people about that. But that's kind of available now, and there's going to be more that we're going to be doing with that in 2024.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Very cool, very cool. Thank you so much for your time. It's so based on your LinkedIn. So Veruna's been around for about 4 years.
Since 2016, actually.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
okay,
would say
okay.
almost 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, almost 7 years. Okay.
Mhm.
How many agencies on Veruna by now?
Oh, I don't know, probably about 100, and they range in size anywhere from, like I said, that one small tech startup that has like 9 people, right, to some of our agencies have hundreds of agents on the system.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure. le- uh, I will take a highly enthusiastic, passionate about what we're solving person over any other type of guest. So this has been really fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to see you guys continue to grow.
Well, I really appreciate you having me, Tony. We certainly have a passion for insurance at Veruna, and so you could tell I could go on and on and on about what we could do to potentially help in the industry. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you.